Something that's kind of been interesting that I think is kind of a problem in our field, if I might be so bold, is you got a BCBA who's highly skilled, highly trained, highly educated, all those good things, right? So at the surface, they have this kind of like superhero conundrum. I can take on any kid, right? It's just behavior. Sure. So if you have that mindset, you're going to accept all sorts of challenging behaviors. Then the day comes where that challenging behavior surfaces, and usually it doesn't happen during the assessment.
No,
Not
that's the
usually.
honeymoon period.
It usually happens after you place demands or you're doing the tasks or you're doing the work. So a quality service provider has to have that moment of reflection of whether they are the right fit for this child, for this family.
Hi, friends and family, and welcome back to Pam and the Purple Couch podcast. This week, guess what we're going to talk about? ABA, the real truth and story behind ABA. Is it really working with our kids? Are we really shaping our students, or are we simply making them comply? That's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. ABA, what is it? Does it really help our children? Hey, is it another form of dog training, Manny? What is ABA? What's it look like? How is it perceived in our environment, our kids? Years ago, ABA was the only clinical form of therapeutic services that helped autism spectrum disorder. So I want to really touch base on that today. But ABA also has a bad connotation in the field of therapy. Speech therapists, occupational therapists, they don't want to talk to the ABA therapist. ABA is not truly allowed in public schools because it can't be ran the way a real ABA program needs to be ran. Parents, you've heard me talk about this. Registered behavioral technicians being forced to come in to help your student in the public school. Yep, that's already a violation of FAPE because the school should be taking care of that for you. So what is this word ABA? What does it mean? What does it look like? And how does it affect your student? Is it snake oil? Does it really work, Manny? What is ABA?
All right, well, let's break it down.
Okay.
It's applied behavior analysis. So let's take all three pieces kind of individually.
Okay.
I always like to do that. So applied, it's application. It's real life, real time, honest work to make a better difference. And that's ultimately what the applied part is. It's not pseudoscience. It's not in a lab. That's called behavior analysis or experimental behavior analysis if you want to get technical. But the applied part of ABA is real life, real time, working in the thick of it.
Yes.
Right? The behavior part that's the central focus of what we're talking about. It's the gross motor. It's the fine motor. It's the living skills. It's the communication skills. It's even the problem behaviors,
Yes.
the tantrums, the screaming, the whining, the crying, the property destruction, the aggression, even to the most highest forms of what we call maladaptive behaviors, right? Self-injurious behavior as is probably one of the most pronounced ones.
Yes.
So that's the behavior part of applied behavior analysis. It's the central focus of the therapy. It's the central focus of the science. We're not talking about mental cognitive states. We're not talking about brain surgery. There's other sciences for that.
Correct.
Right? But the ABA practitioner of the world is really focusing on helping people with their behavior and looking at all of the facets of that. The last part is analysis, and it's probably one of the most central focus areas that makes a big difference of what is ABA versus what is something else. And I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to...
The data doesn't lie.
Right. So the analysis is predicated on the idea and the practice that we are going to gather data. We're going to track the information. We're going anything from direct observations to talking to a parent and getting some history. That's data,
Yeah.
right? Medical information, behavioral history, their educational history, anything that's related to the development of that child. That's data. But that's not where we stop. ABA is central focused on looking at the behavior in real time, collecting the data, and the data is just not just how many times the behavior happens or how long it happens. It's also what happened before, what happened after, what's the environmental context of the behavior. It's truly about analyzing. And so for us ABA practitioners, we believe that we are scientist practitioners. We are truly being scientific in what we're doing. We're not guessing. We're taking the guesswork out. That's why you said the data doesn't lie. I like to use the phrase, let the data be your guide.
Yep.
So if I'm collecting good data, then I don't have to guess.
I got to pick on you.
Yeah.
Did you all notice that? Data, tomato, tomato. You know, what he's talking about is that we've got to have backup. Show me the data, show me the data, because so many times as us parents, what we hear is, Loki's having a really hard time focusing in school. Oh, really? Well, what does that look like?
Yeah, mine the other day was my kid Junior. Junior has not been a good listener. All day? You had him for 10 hours. He didn't listen all day. I have a little hard time believing that. Junior, you listen now.
Right, exactly.
So tell me a little bit more. Give me the context. Or Viviana, she wasn't nice to her friends. Again, tell me more. What does that look like? Yeah, so data is about, it's not just for the practitioner. It's not just for the ABA person. It's for the parent.
Yes.
It's for the teacher. It's for
When did it happen?
Yeah, when did it happen? What was the context? Were other kids involved? Was it a group thing or an individual thing? If you're thinking of it in terms of at home versus in school, different contexts. And those that are listening and watching, we've talked about it here in the podcast. A child behaves very differently in home versus in school versus in Publix.
Yes.
Or I shouldn't probably say that, in the grocery store or in the mall. And the reason is because of the environment,
Yes.
the context. We've talked about this many times, lights, sounds, smells, all the sensory stuff can change the behavior in a second.
It can change for an adult. We think about environment. So what actually is an environmental factor? That can be the people around you. It could be the smells around you. It could be the noises that are around you. It could also be stressors. You know, if you think about it, there's physical environmental factors.
Yep.
There's mental. Oh my gosh, was my mom and dad arguing before I came to school? You know, is the teacher's tone something that irritates the sound and the voice? So it could be a person. You know, then we have to think about chemical environmental factors. And that comes down to, what did your child have for breakfast?
Did they eat breakfast?
Right. Are they hungry? Did they sleep? Do they have a toothache?
Right.
Wink, wink.
We had one of
We
those.
talk about that, you know, because these all do impact the child.
Yeah.
All right, families, we'll be right back after this special message. Are you looking for an alternative to public school? Puzzle Box Academy is your home, where every child is looked at as an individual. Come to Puzzle Box Academy, take your tour today, and you will see the difference. Puzzle Box Academy at www.puzzleboxacademy.com. And now, back to the Purple Couch podcast. Now, ABA has been around for a while. Just a little bit. And even in the field, we have seen drastic changes.
Yeah.
When I started ABA in 2008, that was my first intro. It was considered experimental treatment. There was no insurance coverage. It was all self-pay. This was, you know, even though this is what's making the big difference in autism spectrum disorder, especially because you can actually retrain the brain.
Yeah.
And so when we were coming into a field, we didn't have any insurance regulations. There was nothing. It was trying to find a provider.
And specifically for a child with autism.
Yes.
Because, so we say in 2008 as a history lesson for the audience, because I don't think a lot of people understand this now, which is surprising to me. So I started in this field in 2000. Easy number to remember. And then right around 2002 is when I really got involved in going to public schools as a behavior analyst.
Yes.
Not a board certified behavior analyst, but a behavior analyst, basically being in training for my board certification. But in that time, we were covered under insurance, but it was just children like with ADD, ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, and it was only for board certified behavior analysts, because all they really wanted us to do is provide consultation to parents, consultation to teachers, things like that.
And that's what's still going on today.
It still
and
is,
a lot of the public schools is when an ABA provider, and I want to say it should be a BCBA, which is a board certified behavioral analyst.
Right.
That's extremely important right now because you want to know what quality healthcare provider is actually stating they're doing ABA.
Right.
But in the public schools, currently, ABA providers can, just like you were saying, come in and give suggestions for behavioral issues going on in the classrooms.
Right.
Children that are neurodivergent, they can come in and they can give their tips and their tricks. But that's really about the extent of it, not a real ABA program.
Right, exactly.
Can you tell our parents so like what we did earlier when we were talking about what does a school look like for a neurodivergent, what should parents be looking for in a quality ABA service provider?
Yeah.
And I say that, Manny, because we need to first talk about some statistics.
Yeah, okay.
If we go about 2 years ago, we were at a conference.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And one of our peers that we both look up to did a speech, and she stated right now, and this was 2 years ago, guys. 2 years ago, we had 50,000 open jobs throughout the world for applied behavioral analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Notice I didn't say board certified behavior analysis. I just said in the field.
In the field, yeah.
We only had 50,000 BCBAs in the field at that time. They already had jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So if we had the same amount of job openings for BCBAs that were in the field, can you see the shortage that's there? And the reason I'm going to talk about this is because I really want families to know what quality healthcare providing is in ABA. Because nowadays, we don't have trained BCBAs with knowledge and experience. They might have gone to school, they might have passed the test, but where is the experience in working with our kids?
Yep.
Because there are many different factors of ABA. Geriatrics to our children.
Yep.
And there's a lot in between.
And a lot in between, yeah.
And there's a difference between ABA in a clinical world, meaning the research world, and then actually working with our children.
Yeah.
So can you give them in those scenarios, what should our families be looking for? Because, you know, there's been a lot of backlash that ABA is overcorrective. ABA is like dog training. ABA is all about giving treats to kids in order for them to comply. They're not learning what to do. They're just being little soldiers.
Yep.
And since I am against the cog in the wheel, I don't want little robots. I want independent, free thinkers. Can you help our parents know when should they be alarmed that, wait a sec, this is not what ABA looks like. This shouldn't be going down. I need either a different BCBA or I need to look for a different company.
Yeah.
So can you educate our listeners today?
So let's start with the practitioner, okay? Because there's the practitioner and then there's the practice, and they both have quality components to it. So the practitioner at the highest level should be a board certified behavior analyst. There's nothing else. There's not like a pseudo or in training. That's not the first person you need to speak to as a parent. The first person you need to speak to is a board certified behavior analyst. So what does that mean? This individual has a master's degree, and that's not all, because part of their master's degree was clinical hours of training that they had to be highly supervised, highly skilled in all sorts of variations of kids that they had to work with. Not just kids, but in general, adults too. They also had to, let's call it pass the test of working with families, working with the end client, which is not just the kid in our case, right? But it's also the caregivers. So that's what you want. You want somebody that had all of that training and then has the science to back them up. Because one of the things that to become a board certified behavior analyst is not just the education part, which is highly skilled education, but it's also they have to pass a test, and that test is not an easy test. It's not much different than, say, a medical doctor or even a Juris Doctorate in the legal sense. They have hours of training they have to go through and supervised training, just like clinical psychologists, right? So that being said, board certified behavior analyst, that's the first person you're going to meet. Then it kind of varies from there. And the reason I say that is because, You also have to know as a parent your kid.
Yes.
So to use the naming convention of autism, because that's probably a simple way to look at it. Autism has 3 levels currently. They have level 1, level 2, level 3. We could do a whole podcast just on the levels, but stay with me, right? So level 1, higher functioning, can do a lot of things independently, but they just need some guidance. They need some nudging. They need some support.
Loki would be a great example of a level 1 autistic person.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of vocal behavior, a lot of communication skills. Just needs a little guidance, right? A little nudging. I like to use nudging. Nudging's a great
Good
word.
one.
Level 2 has some skill deficit areas, right? They have some skill deficit areas that they need to work on. Typically, it's communication skills, sometimes social skills, but they have a lot of great receptive language. They have a lot of understanding. They can follow some instructions. They can. If you ask them the alphabet, just to make a simple example, they may be able to tell you your ABCs.
And before the DSM-5, which is the diagnostic manual, we went from autism to PDD and OS to Asperger's.
Asperger's, right.
So when he's talking about level 2, and bear with me, guys. So level 1, Loki was diagnosed with PDD and OS. And that means that he's somewhere on the spectrum. He would have been Aspie, but he didn't have any communication. So I'm talking to some of my, like Loki would give me crap right now, Gen X parents here,
right.
letting them know that how do they formulate in the different codes. So autism would be our level 3 back in the day. Level 2 would be for our PDD and OS. And level 1 would be our Asperger's children that literally were working on social emotional goals, had communication, normally high IQs, very intelligent children, but lacking the social emotional area in order to facilitate in human kindness. They're the students or the loved ones at home that would be like, Mom, you look really fat in that dress. You shouldn't take and put that on.
Right.
You know, parents then go, oh my gosh, well, they're just being honest.
Right.
They don't understand these nuances of white lies. They just tell you how it is. And it can be offensive to many, but you have to understand that that's the shaping that goes on. So in your field, just so that we can allow all, because you don't want, my kid didn't get diagnosed level 1, 2, or 3. I'm just trying to crosswalk for them so they understand.
And why is it important to even, so we're talking about the practitioner and the practice, right? The quality service provider. The reason why this information is necessary for parents to know is because you want to know that the practitioner knows these levels. Why? Because then there's level 3. And level 3 is your severe behaviors, severe skills deficits. So they have some specific needs that they need, right?
They're my favorite babies.
So, and this is where we get into like severe maladaptive behaviors, like self-injurious behaviors and stuff like that. So a quality service provider not only knows this information, they know when they look at a child and they look at a family and the struggles that they have, the history, the medical necessity, which is a key term, medical necessity, that's when you know that the provider says to you, okay, based on all the information, all the data I have, here's where we believe your child needs to be to get the level of support they need.
Yes.
Now, you go to a public school, as an example, and we've seen it. You have a child that maybe they weren't diagnosed level 3, but they have all the characteristics of it, but they're simply not getting the support they need. A true quality service provider, a BCBA, will come into that school and say, this kid is not in the right place.
Yes.
And have to have those heart-to-heart conversations with the parents to say, I'm sorry, your child is in a corner, coloring sheets, not getting attention, showing all sorts of maladaptive behaviors. This is not the right place. And that's where currently, in our current environment of ABA, we have our ABA clinics, our ABA therapy clinics. Why? Because they are there primarily, I would say, for those level 2s and level 3s.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's why it's important to know this language for a parent. Not for the diagnosis part. Take the diagnosis, it's a number. It's just a terminology medical practitioners use. But it's an important guide on how to find the right place.
Absolutely, because if you have a practicing behavioralist, whether it's an RBT, registered behavior technician, or a BCBA, a board certified behavioral analyst, you need to make sure that they are used to handling kids with high levels of aggression.
Yep.
If your child is a biter, a kicker, he doesn't have expressive language, she doesn't speak at all, then when they are having their meltdowns, which we all have, it just looks different because that's their form of language.
Right.
Their form of a language may be screaming. Their form of language may be biting, maybe kicking the table. And if you have a practitioner that's not used to that environment, the first thing they're going to come to you is with the worst case scenario for your child. Then that defeats not only the parent, but it also defeats the kid as well.
Yeah.
Same thing in the school system. I can't tell you how many families we get, you've seen it, that come from the public school and they've been told to look for residential care for their child because in a classroom of 25 kids, he's done punched 4 of them, kicked over a table and chair, and called the teacher everything but a nice person.
Right.
And, and instantly, at that, we're laughing, but we know we've seen it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Or the reverse side of it is that there could be something more. We call them dual diagnoses, comorbidity.
Yep.
Where there's something else besides autism going on. And in an environment where they're not trained, it's very easily for the parents to feel defeated.
Yeah, and I think a quality service provider, going back to that, like what I respect about our field is when I hear a practitioner talk about a story where they had to do an assessment, they had to meet a family, they had to do an analysis of a kid, and they recognized that their skill level as a board certified behavior analyst, that their skill level was not to the degree that it was necessary to support that kid and that family. Now, something that's kind of been interesting that I think is kind of a problem in our field, if I might be so bold, is you got a BCBA who's highly skilled, highly trained, highly educated, all those good things, right? So at the surface, they have this kind of like superhero conundrum. I can take on any kid, right? It's just behavior. Sure. So if you have that mindset, you're going to accept all sorts of challenging behaviors. Then the day comes where that challenging behavior surfaces, and usually it doesn't happen during the assessment.
No,
Not
that's the
usually.
honeymoon period.
It usually happens after you place demands or you're doing the tasks or you're doing the work. So a quality service provider has to have that moment of reflection of whether they are the right fit for this child, for this family. What happens a lot of times is that they welcome the family, they welcome the kid into their caseload, and then they work on some things. Problem behavior happens, and they're not seeking help. So a quality service provider that you want is somebody that says to you, I don't have all the experience in the world to help you, but I have the support I need to help you.
Absolutely.
So we have a BCBA in our team, and a little shout out to BB. Her name is Brittany Bagansky. And I've been in this field for a long time, but I didn't know everything going in, working. It's been a long time. I started with families and kids, and then I took a hiatus, if you will, to work on my organizational behavior management work. And then I came back into the fold, and I had to say to myself, we had a good sit down conversation. I was like, I would love to do this. I just need some help, right? Yep. Just get me into the mold. And that's what you want from a quality service provider. Somebody that can say, I've been at BCBA for a long time, but I need a BB.
Yes.
Because BB's been around and knows her stuff and helped me out.
So I think that's how I want to wrap our episode up today, is with that statement you just said, is that some of your best practitioners are the ones that acknowledge their deficits.
Yeah, absolutely.
In 11 years, the hardest thing that I've seen us have to do is tell a parent that this child has needs that are beyond our scope.
Yeah.
And so parents, don't be afraid of those conversations. In the reverse, going to your practitioner and asking, do you have experience with a child like mine? Even though as a mom of an autistic kid, there's nobody like my Loki. There's nobody like your Johnny or Sally. But you need to make sure that they have experience with a child that is similar to yours. And if they don't, ask them what are their plans in order to get assistance to bring their skill set up to your child's. That would be my tip and trick for you all today. Please, guys, as we wrap up this show, remember to hit the like button, subscribe, so that you do not miss any more of these tools, tips, and tricks that can be from your couch to ours. So until next time, we'll see you back here on Pam and the Purple Couch podcast. Bye, guys.